Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the Rainbow Crossing Podcast, a podcast where Gen X and Gen Z discuss life's challenges and how we face them as queer people. We have these open conversations to foster a sense of community through different perspectives. My name is Julio Guzman, and sitting a little too close to me is...
Daniel. Hi, Julio. And we also have a very special guest with us
sure
today.
do.
Javi, thank you for joining us today. You are a music agent and the owner-founder of KOQ Agency, correct?
That is correct.
How do you say that?
KOQ.
Sounds a little...
Read it out loud. You say it.
Is it cock? Did I say correctly?
You said that correctly.
Okay.
You said cock.
It looked like it. When I was reading it, I was like, is that an acronym or is that a different word?
It was a very funny acronym that was a side effect of the original name of the company.
So what does KOQ stand for then?
KOQ stands for King of Queens. The name of the company is King of Queens Entertainment LLC, but try to say that 3 times back to back.
Right. KOQ is easier.
It's much easier.
So are you the King of Queens?
I like to think I am.
Yeah.
I used to be.
That's the vibe I'm getting.
I used to be in Austin at least. Yeah.
So I went back and looked at our texts, and I didn't realize it was 2018 when we first started texting each other. It was also for Austin Pride. So for our viewers, we should say that Austin Pride takes place in August as opposed to June for a variety of reasons. But it was also, I believe, in August in 2018. And I was putting on an event. I needed a headliner for the event. And of course, I wanted that to be our hometown drag queen hero.
My favorite.
Cynthia Lee Fontaine.
Miss Cuckoo Cynthia Lee Fontaine,
Yes. And you were the agent for her. So we started interacting that way.
Yeah, I remember that clearly. So Cynthia was my first client. She's the queen of KOQ. Cynthia, I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for her. I mean, there's a lot of people to thank, but she definitely has been my number one supporter. And when you and I started working together, I think it was my first Pride gig ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that because, I mean, you handled it all so well. And that led to us doing a lot of other projects together. Yeah. And then also, I mean, we became friends too, which makes this so special to me because Julio and I have our friendship and our back and forth here. And we had our first guest on a couple of weeks ago, but you bring a professional capacity here.
Professional.
That because I should say a little more history on you and who you are. You have your BS in music management.
Music business.
Music business. Correct. And you're currently pursuing your MBA at Rice University.
Correct.
And obviously you have your own agency. So you...
Check.
Yeah.
Check.
Quite a catch. Quite a catch.
Yes. And you've been doing this for how long?
So I started working in entertainment, professionally as an adult since 2013. I started in the beer locker room at Oil Can Harris on Front Street. Yes.
That made famous by Trixie Mattel.
and Katya. But Kelly Klein and Jenny McCall, may she rest in power, were the host every Sunday. And, you know, prior to that, one of my really good friends was Erica Andrews. So I had a royalty treatment when it came to the drag scene. When the whole thing began happening at Oil Cans, it was almost like a natural segue from what I was doing. Understanding my community, understanding the entertainers that navigated that environment, and understanding why they did what they do, because it's far beyond putting on a costume and doing a song. It's about self-expression and being that star that their community needs, and also a leader, because they're leaders in the community.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. People look to them with such awe, and they have these huge platforms. Yeah. So whether they want to be or not, these queens are leaders. Yeah. And you started your own agency when exactly?
When I got fired.
Been there.
We've
couple too many times.
We've all been there.
Mostly they end up being blessings.
100%. So I do, and I'm gonna tell the anecdote because I was let go from my previous agency, and when people ask me why, I said because because God had bigger things in mind for me.
Yes.
I was lost. I felt defeated, and we're talking about how we tend to feel defeated when others kind of understand what we can actually achieve. And that led me to a state of doubt and led me to a state of almost depression, to where like everything that I had built up for another company was gone. And my last booking was here in Austin, and I just didn't, I was trying to put on a face for everybody. And you approached me and you said, I don't remember how the conversation started, but I'll never forget. You said, if anybody's going to do something great out of this, it's going to be you. And I took that shit to heart. Can I cuss here?
He said that?
Yeah.
He said that nice thing to you?
He did.
What?
And I don't think, and I think it did come from the heart. I really think he meant it.
Definitely.
Yeah. I remember that moment too. And I didn't know how foretelling it would be, because I needed to hear those words myself a few months later.
Yeah.
But I don't say things that I don't mean. And it was a very genuine thing that you have the talent, you have the ability, you have the connections. And I know that the performers you have worked with, and they love you. So I was like, this is going to be a great thing for you.
Yeah, I was, but again, like it comes down to like we doubt ourselves for what we can do. And when you said those words to me, I went back home and I woke up the next day and I was like, I have to begin leveraging the relationships I've made. Yeah. I have to start like figuring out what I want to do with my life and look at the spectrum of things that I had built. And that's when KOQ was born. And my first project was to call Aqua and say, I think we're ready for this, and it worked out great.
So I have a list of some of the talents that you work with.
Oh God!
And there's
this guy did his whole research. He was like,
I have never seen my life in a flash the way he's bringing it up.
You're quoting me with receipts here.
There's gonna be tears in this podcast. Oh my God!
You don't. I mean, come on up, Cynthia.
No, you would literally make me cry if she was. That's my girl.
You work some of the talents you work with: LeAnn Rimes, Vassy, Big Freedia, Salt and Peppa, In Vogue, Chaka Khan. That's when I saw that, I was floored. On the Drag Race side, Shea Coulee, which is one of your favorites, all-time favorites.
She's an amazing human. Yeah. She's so great.
Priyanka, of course, Cynthia Lee Fontaine, Trixie Mattel. Yeah. Arguably the most popular drag queen.
After RuPaul, don't get canceled.
Right. Yeah.
She got eyes here.
Jimbo, Kylie Sonique Love.
Oh, my favorite.
And Love.
Yeah.
Kylie Sonique Love.
She's incredible.
Monet Exchange, Alyssa Edwards. The list goes on and on and on.
That lineup is fire.
That list is a gay man's music and drag queen wet dream right there. That is just an amazing menagerie of talent that flocked to you. I mean, I know you probably had relationships with some of them prior to this, but they had an agency that they were working with and they left it to work with you.
Not necessarily. So the way it works is artists have different agents for different
types of
fields, and they do have a choice to work with somebody to handle different market segments. And you're right, they did come to us to help them with what was then just the LGBT market, and we have been able to leverage that into bigger opportunities for them. And now that you mention it, I'm like, wow, like I have done things with each of those artists, and we have done great, amazing work. And this business is all about relationship. Yeah. I think any business that you are in, whether you work for a business or you are founding a business, it's all about how you conduct yourself, how you carry yourself. And one thing that was always very important to me was to try to treat my talent and the buyers the way I would like to be treated, and always have a level of flexibility and understanding that at the end of the day, my responsibility is the artist's career and growth, but we have to do it responsibly. And I think that's been one part of the formula for KOQ, to be able to attract these names to work with us.
So tell me exactly what a music agency does for these performers.
So the music agency handles different aspects of the music industry. Right now, because the state of the music industry is mostly in the live segment of entertainment, a lot of tours. We're booking a lot of tours, a lot of brand partnerships. we handle most of the contracting for the artist. That's part of the agent. So the manager is the person that handles the day-to-day for the artist. And you work hand in hand with artist managers to fulfill the vision of the artist, get to the markets that they want to get into. When there's album release or there's a single release, to do the plan for the marketing, to do the pop-ups, to do all the things that involve getting the artist in the right stages at the right time and make sure that they're reaching the fans that they need to. We also sometimes act as a liaison between management and the record labels, depending on the artist agreement. We don't really do a lot of 360 deals. That's more of a management part, but we do oversee some licensing and some streaming opportunities, and definitely brand partnerships. That's a big one for us. So anything, if you do music, these are your revenue streams, right?
Do you only manage vocal artists, music artists? What kind of other artists do you do? Is it mostly just drag queens and people dabbling in music?
Music, yes. I don't have a lot of actors or TV and film is not really my wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. But as we grow, we will be incorporating TV and film agents.
Nice. I mean, I feel like there is this very, very small market for like gay and lesbian and queer actors and actresses that have made it big in the big screen.
I think you're correct in what you're saying, and there could be a lot more work to put into what the artists in our community, how they're represented. But TV and film is a whole different animal. Mm-hmm. And I'm very passionate about music. Mm-hmm. And all the artists in my roster have musical, they have a musical career. I don't, with the exception, I think Alyssa, but she's the queen of Texas. So
yes.
When Alyssa calls you, you answer.
Yes, you do.
But yes.
Do you also manage dancers that tie into music?
I don't do any dancers or makeup artists, but there are agents that specialize in high-end dancers or booking dancers for tours. I think Clear Talent is a big one for dancers. They're doing a really good job, and they're so dialed in that it's a market that I don't have the expertise, and I really like to grow artists in the music sphere. So that's kind of like where I'm focusing on right now. But KOQ has plans to expand into corporate partnerships, which we do some right now. We're working with I'm on an NDA, I can't say that, but but hopefully
moving on.
When it comes out, I'll let you know which one it was. So we're doing some brand partnerships and influencers. I started working with influencers now. Yeah, Rock'em Sakura, who's on my roster, who's a drag artist. Yeah, we really have done a great job at focusing her and finding what works for her as far as the influencer sphere. And she's done amazing partnerships. We work with Sega. We work with Walmart. We recently worked with Crunchyroll. We did a partnership with, what is the streaming platform where you play video games?
Twitch,
yeah. She's done a partnership with Twitch.
Wow.
She's incredible. Like,
Damn.
she doesn't like to leave her house.
Good for her.
Yeah.
That's awesome. A lot of this makes me think about the success of and something that Julio alluded to earlier about the number of queer artists that we're seeing in general, and we have seen success with that today versus when you and I were younger. I'm older than you.
The shame generation.
But we are both Gen X. Finally outnumber Julio.
Yeah. Be ready.
I'm scared.
But when we were kids, there were a lot of closeted LGBT artists. Sir Elton John, Barry Manilow,
George Michael.
Oh my gosh. Ricky Martin.
Prince was the ultimate they-them. Like,
Absolutely.
Prince was the ultimate they.
Yeah. There were so many that, in retrospect, they've either come out or, maybe on their deathbeds, they finally were able to live their truth. Yeah. And that's not the case anymore. I'm sure there are plenty of artists who are still in the closet. However, we see a lot of success with people like Troye Sivan and Lil Nas X. Adore Delano, I believe, is one of yours.
Yeah.
And Kim Petras. I can imagine 20 years ago that a trans woman could be as successful a music artist as she is today.
Yeah. I think the emerging queer artist movement that we're seeing, and I don't want to sound cliche, but a lot of it is owed to RuPaul. When he came out in the 90s with Supermodel, it was a big hit. I think anybody that had a little smidget of gay in them was like, oh,
this is a reality.
Yeah,
this is something
okay.
that we can do.
And to volley back to your generation came in and said, we're gonna
do whatever we want.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And your generation has created a way for it to be okay to be who you are and express yourself the way we weren't allowed to. We were raised in shame of things that for just being who we are. And it's created a market where now Pride is so much more than just a festival. Pride is really a way of life. It's like, it's a mindset. It's being able to recognize that a lot of the VMA nominations, the top ones are LGBTQI artists or allies, which is the market that I navigate. Yeah. And then you have artists that don't necessarily identify as part of as the affinity group, but they are big supporters, like Chaperone. You know, and Chaperone's taking over the world.
Sure
and
has.
Yeah,
and I mean, there was a video from her in like 2021, like in the piano, just in front of a small park.
Yeah,
and now it's like full stages, sold out, crowds,
and that
screaming for her.
And it speaks to the importance of accepting your identity and being who you are, and supporting, nurturing children who have a creative outlet, and not necessarily creative, but just in general, like support your kids. A child is not doing anything wrong. It's you that are putting shame in that. I remember one time my mom asked me, who do you want to marry when you grow up? And I said a boy's name. And she said, no, you're supposed to marry a girl. And I ran with that for 20 years of my life. I was like, wait a minute, this is not it, you know? So as a society, as a world in general, we need to do better to understand that the stigmas that are put on our community are created by people. They're not necessarily rules or laws that you can't follow. And I'm glad that now we're seeing the artist world just breaking those barriers and speaking out against.
Well, once the people start realizing that art isn't a gender and it's all fluid, there's different types of versions of art that you can be expressive with. And nowadays, when you see some artists like, let's say, Kim Petras or Lil Nas thrive in today's world, for example, performances, they'll start pushing this image on us for being demonic or praising of certain things. But in reality, queer people just like to take all their pain and all the things that were pushed up onto us that were negative and turn it into art.
Exactly.
And that's how they like process things to be content with the world that we live in. And also mock a little bit at the people that it's like, hey, you might feel this way about it, but to me, it's just a man with horns, you know?
Exactly. Like, listen, I respect everybody's right to a religion and to religious freedom, but just because you believe in it doesn't mean the rest of the world has to believe in it or has to follow those rules. And I like the point that you brought up, that we grab this negative things that have been pushed on us and create art and make something beautiful out of it. Because some of the best artists created in a pressure cooker. When you're going through shit, can I cuss in here?
You can do whatever you want. You're like sweating, trying to hold all these cuss words in.
When you go through shit, it's when you perform the best. And we were talking earlier about when you go through things in life, how it pushes you to like do better in life and build a business. And for an artist, it's creativity. Some of those paintings, music, art, scripts, anything is created because you're feeling those emotions and you're externalizing it. So it's really important for us to acknowledge that behind that amazing song, there's a real story behind it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so many artists have paved the way for the Lil Nas X's, the Kim Petrases, to be able to do what they have done. And you've been in the industry for over a decade now.
Yeah. Wow.
And you've
the way you put it.
You're so
I age
old.
him, he's aging you.
It did.
I'm the oldest one here, so let me have a little something.
If a decade is a platinum, no, I'm what, bronze right now?
So taking it to one of your clients, Adore, I remember distinctly Adore, watching it live because I'm that old, when Adore was on American Idol.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing, I was like, oh, there's this little gay boy on here. And I just was pulling for them so much. And I think the producers of the show, I think she's talked about it, that she was really pushed into being a more of a heteronormative type of musician and performance and everything, and didn't find much success doing that. And now look at, I mean, Adore is so successful.
Adore is an incredible human, and Adore is an inspiration to many artists, because not only did she have to face societal stigma, but she also had to see like other people in other versions of the show who were through her same experience, but had a different journey, like Courtney Act in Australia. You know?
Right.
She had somewhat of a more positive experience.
Oh, for sure.
And I cannot speak to Courtney's experience, but I know that it was definitely more positive than what Adore went through. And when these situations happen, it opens the door to other people. So Adore opened the doors to Ada Vox and other queer performers to step into those stages and have no fear to express who they are. And Ada Vox is an incredible vocalist, you know, and I think that she's great. I don't want to say like Ada owes her success to Adore, but Adore was the first one to step into that ground and open the door for a lot of queer artists. And credit has to be given where credit is due. And Adore is a fantastic human. She's a rock star.
She is a rock star.
She is. I saw her when she came to Oil Cans 2 years ago, and there was something that emanated from her that you don't see very often. And I think a big part of that was I'm being true to myself, as you said.
Yeah.
And when you can do that, and when you can channel all of the past stuff that you've gone through into your art, as we were saying, it allows you to be the full embodiment of the human you're supposed to be. You're reaching your full potential. And I see that in Adore. And this is a beautiful human inside and out. And
her entire journey is very inspirational. It's really a journey of success, and it's really a journey of self. I don't want to say self-improvement, but self-enlightening.
Yeah.
It's like staying true to herself. Like she stayed true to herself every single moment in her life.
I think the moment she clicked, she was like, "This is who I am," and people follow that. You become an inspiration, and that's the success to many artists. A lot of people want to get into this business to be rich and live the jet set life, and they may have a moment, but if you're not honest about your art and who you are, you have a short-lived career for sure.
People are attracted to authenticity. I know you've been to DragCon probably too many times.
Survived DragCon.
Yes. I was there in 2017. I had a booth there. And I had Boomer Banks with me, and he was going, because Boomer knows all the queens. So he was doing interviews with all of the queens there. Even in 2017, 7 years ago, it's crazy to think it's been that long. But I remember being shocked. That was my first time at DragCon, at the crowd that was there. I was expecting it to be 90% gay men. And there were a lot of gay men there, but there were just as many straight families there.
There's a lot of families.
And I was in one spot, so I got to see people come and go. And we got to go, Julio, at some point. You'll be really fascinated by all of this. And I remember the husband and wife, they were probably in their 50s or so, and just holding hands and walking through, and were meeting all their favorite queens. And then the mom and her 13, 14-year-old, I'm sure, gay son, walking through together, and just the level of blending of all the different worlds and communities here. And the queer community, queer artists, as you said earlier, owe so much to RuPaul, but especially to Drag Race. 100%. That really opened the doors for so many queer artists to really say, this is who I am, and there is space for it. People have found success doing this.
Yeah, 20 years ago, you wouldn't have an agency specializing in queer artists. You wouldn't have... the Pride festivals were not the massive concerts that they are now. No. I think it's been a cultural phenomenon, but it's been a combination of many things. But when you explore the history of queerness and the history of what our community does, in general, we've always been supportive and leaders in our community. And now we're able to create these safe spaces. And not only that, but we've always been entrepreneurial. You know, we created businesses. We create every art, every freaking garment people wear is designed by somebody in our community. I can guarantee it. That is a fact. And we create so much beauty, and the world has placed a stigma on what we are to be or become. And having this safe space, like a place like DragCon, where a family can come in and just see artists and just see art and just see humans expressing themselves, and not necessarily have to pivot to a Comic-Con where it's essentially the same thing, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Everybody's wearing a costume.
Absolutely.
They're all
still drag.
Yeah, still drag. Yeah. Mother said it best. You all born naked and the rest is drag.
Yeah.
But we do have to acknowledge that, I wouldn't be sitting here. Cynthia wouldn't be where she's at. This industry wouldn't be where it is if it wasn't for RuPaul. Yeah. RuPaul had the balls to put this thing on TV, and back then it was Logo TV was like, yeah, we're going to do this. Yeah. And it's grown into a multinational phenomenon. So it's not a situation where we're pushing this agenda on people. People want to consume this content, and people are flocking to it. And we're doing much better, but there's still a lot of work to be done. But it's magical, and it's fantastic to see that a small TV show has spurned like a moment of cultural reset.
Yeah, last week, Julio and I talked about safe spaces in the form of gay bars. Yeah. And that's been a safe space for, decades. It's also kind of gone through a reset in the last few years. And I think Drag Race probably played a big role in that as well, because we have a lot of the straight girls coming out to see the drag shows. And we have a lot of straight couples who are coming, and sometimes for certain reasons, and sometimes... Swingers! Yes. But sometimes it's just because gays feel free to be themselves. Yeah. And there's a freedom and an enjoyment of being around that kind of energy. So gay bars attracts people who just want to be their authentic selves and to be around that kind of people. Yeah. And it's really just exciting to see. And it's really allowed, like you said, your type of agency wouldn't have been able to do the work that it's doing 20 years ago. But, can you tell us a little bit more about what your mission is with the queer artists and the allied artists?
So it's very clear to me that I want to create a sort of level and equality between what is a queer artist and what is an ally artist and what is a musician. And I think that even though labels are sometimes needed in a certain way, I want us to all go to a music festival and see an artist, not, they have a drag queen on stage. Mm-hmm. Let's just go for the music. Yeah. Let's just enjoy the artistry. And when I founded the agency, it was through sheer survival and leveraging what I had built and what I had. And I feel like that resonates a lot with our community. Mm-hmm. Our community is in a constant state of survival because we never know where things are coming from or where negativity is going to hit you. The agency, all we're doing is bringing entertainment. We want to make the world a little bit better by spreading glitter in every stage we can. But I think equality in that way, where the Grammy winner was a drag queen, is not something I want to hear. The Grammy winner was a really good musician. Mm-hmm. I wish when Kim won her Grammy that people just saw her as a woman. Yeah. She's a female artist.
And everyone was like, trans.
Which is important for representation. I 100% agree with that. But there were other trans artists that have won Grammys before. And we have to know that history. We have to know where we came from, and creating that mission to seeing us just as people, I think is important. And I'm not trying to erase our existence because words can get misconstrued. I got to be very careful how you speak now. But I want us to understand that by being united, we can do better than by continuing to segregate ourselves. So I use the Kim Petras example again, because you like Kim Petras, but she won a Grammy. She's an excellent artist. She's an excellent vocalist, and she's a performer. Whether she's trans or not, it's not affecting her talent.
Facts. I've had this conversation multiple times with different people. Like, I see people as people. I could care less what you have going on, what you identify as. I'm gonna respect whatever you say and call you by your name, but that's how I see you, by your name, by who you say you are. And when people put a lot of thought into identifying themselves and labeling themselves, I feel like we could just be done with that. I feel like, why don't we just see people for who they are, say who they are, that's who it is, accept it, and move on? Because sometimes people just
what you said
get stuck.
What you're saying takes me back to, what year was this? 2004 or 5. I was hanging out with Erica Andrews, and we were having a very interesting conversation about labels back then. For her being a trans entertainer, it wasn't the landscape that it is today. Yeah. And she's always said something that stuck with me, and she said, I practice love, not labels. So I love that you said that, because it really took me back there. And
I've had like friends have identity issues. They're like, maybe I'm non-binary, this and that. And I'm like, you're thinking too much about it. Just feel who you are, accept it, and then don't even worry about labeling yourself. What's your name? Perfect. That's who you are to me.
That's who you are. And we move on. We don't need to force people to fit into a box.
There we go.
Yeah, the world wants to do that to us. And the mindset that we're talking about here is the ideal mindset. But we as a society aren't there yet, unfortunately. But that's the goal.
That is the goal.
That's 100% the goal. And I do believe we are several steps closer to that than we were when you and I were kids.
Yeah, 100%. Like when I tell my parents what I do for work, they understand I work in entertainment, but it's a little cloudy for them. They're like, so you work with drag queens? Not just drag queens. So you work with musicians? Some of them are. It's always that. I don't want to say it's a natural need to classify things, but it's the way we've been trained.
It's how we've come accustomed to life by labeling ourselves.
Thing. And I think like one of the missions of the agency, like I personally want to grow it and create jobs for people who just feel comfortable. Like you can just come work here. I don't care who you're sleeping with. I don't care how you identify. If you do a good job and you're a badass human, you're welcome to join my team. Yeah. That's all I want. Listen, there's some shitty people in our community too. Like,
we're aware.
Yes. So if you are like part of any of our letters and you're a dick, you probably won't have a place to work in my agency. But we should never deny an opportunity for people just because of who they choose to love or how they identify. And I think there's been a big shift from when you and I were younger to now, because in our generation, it was more about sexual preference. Mm-hmm. It was more sexual.
Yes.
Now like people call themselves homosexual. Like they are attracted to sexual beings with men.
Right.
But sometimes from things that I've seen, they wouldn't call themselves gay. They would call themselves homosexuals.
Yeah. And now it's more about identity. It's more about who you are. And I find that so refreshing because there's so much pressure on like trying to identify like, well, do I want to sleep with this person or that person? No, dude, just be who you are. And
I mean, we've all had that experience where there's someone's like, oh, this is my gay best friend. I was like, I've been your best friend before being gay. Well, I mean, I've always been gay, but before you even knew about I was gay, you know?
I've been the gunko. I've been the gay best friend. I've been the gay husband. I'm like, can I just be?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Maybe it's this Gen X mindset, but it does make things easier on me to be able to categorize things. And I definitely
think that's just your type A.
Maybe it's not my age. It's just my.
Well, in business, it's important to do it, but I think when it comes down to society,
right, that's when you need to turn it off.
Yeah, because it segregates.
Yes,
it segregates the community, and I think that especially this year with the election coming up, we need to be a community. We can't be one thing or the other. We have to fight for our rights, especially in tech. I don't want to get political, but we need to vote. Like, that's all I'm going to say.
I've been waiting to get political on this podcast, but that's another day, another episode.
We're talking about music and glitter things.
Happy.
Yeah. But no, removing the political aspect, like it's very refreshing to say that the gays are moving the economy. We are definitely doing our part to move the economy, to provide jobs, to provide entertainment. And my sole mission is not only to grow my agency, to grow my artists, but to also be able to help people that are my colleagues, that are my peers. And I have a really interesting story that there's this agent, her name is Linda Lewis. I love her because Linda was doing this way before any of us came into the scene. Like Linda was out there doing booking Pride festivals when there were like hundreds of people only, you know, and we owe a lot to people like Linda that don't get acknowledged enough. You know, we hear stories about, honor the people that came before you, but the mission of the agency is to honor people like Linda who, have been through the 80s and the 90s and are surviving all these newcomers coming into the industry, but I want to be respectful of people like her because I understand that her world is not the same world that I'm living in. She didn't have a chaperone. She didn't have a Shea Coulee.
And people like her, I'm sure, weren't doing it for the money. They were doing it for the community.
Because that's who they were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But she's done really well. So.
Good. Good. Well deserved.
Yeah.
So do you feel like that there is still a level of underrepresentation happening? You know, the people are flocking to gay artists.
100%.
We know the gay community is going to support, if they love somebody, they're going to support them. But do you think that there's still this underrepresentation happening?
People want to attach themselves to the LGBT artistry and the LGBT brand because it's the new thing or it's the hot thing to do.
Yeah.
Oh, how many brands are coming out on Pride and supporting the community? And I'm not going to come on this podcast and bash any of those brands because I'll tell you what, those brands are creating jobs and they're paying a lot of our bills during June. And I appreciate that. If a brand wants to come and just do LGBT things during Pride and then go back to business as usual, that is their prerogative, that is their business, that is how they run it. And we need to take advantage of that moment that we have. As long as people understand that it's cool to support, but it's not a trend, I think that we're in a solid place. If this is just a trend, then our community is going to be in trouble.
So what you're saying is during this month of June, don't buy anything from these brands and wait for June. And that's when you give them their money.
You know, that's not a bad idea.
Think about it.
Not a bad
Think
idea.
about it.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, so that's how you kind of win. Instead of like giving to this brand every single time and it's like, oh, they're only taking from us on this month and like branding themselves with our category. It's like, why not just wait till that month?
Yeah.
And then that month it's
Let me
for
ask
the
you this,
people.
because I know you guys are asking the questions, but I really want to get the point of view of both of you. So how do you feel about brands that are seasonal supporters of the community?
seasonal supporters.
Yeah, like they come around in June.
Yeah, and
blast
then
their
and then
rainbows
they're
and
gone.
then take it back at.
If they are taking care of their actual queer employees, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I could care less if they're giving them a month, as long as they're just not profiting and like, as long as the queer community is benefiting some way with this brand.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't want it to be just performative. Last year, 2 years ago, last year, Disneyland had their first ever official gay pride night. And a lot of people were saying, this is performative. This is in response to the Florida situation, you know, with the lawsuit against Disney World in Florida. And there is an argument to be made that maybe it was a tad performative, but once you got into the park and you saw all the happiness of the people and you saw so many different types of people within our community, and there's
always people hating from outside the VIP.
What I was thinking similar something like that. I'm like, people want representation. They're like, why don't these corporate jobs represent us or whatever? And then when they do, they give us a month, it's like everyone gets upset. And it's like, well, you're asking for support. And then the month comes and it's like.
Also, June is our month. We claim that. So, yes.
But for other things, like let's say Hispanic Heritage Month, like they'll do specific things for people and people want these things. And then sometimes when they are given to them, they're like, oh, you're just capitalizing on our culture, our community.
And I'm sure there are some companies that do that. However, there are a lot of positives that can come from that. So are they using us or are we using them? Or is it kind of this mutual situation? Or are they genuinely interested and this is their way to show it? In my Disneyland example, the people who were attending were thrilled. The employees were so happy. I've been to Disneyland several times, and the employees were happier than I've ever seen them. You were talking about glitter earlier, and they had their glitter wands that they were. Do you want a little glitter?
That's awesome.
And so maybe it's a tad performative, but the more I got into it, I was like, this is benefiting so many people. Even if it was, it's having a positive impact.
Yeah, I think everything tends to have an element of performative. When you're at your job, you don't behave at your job the way you behave in normal life. And if this multi-billion-dollar corporation has decided to honor our community by doing something for us, regardless of how much money they're making, there's still a market and there's still people that want to enjoy this. So I wish we could relieve the pressure on the damn if you do, damn if you don't. Because the bottom line is that a lot of what our community enjoys during Pride Month comes from corporate dollars.
Yeah.
And the support comes genuinely and uninterested, because if you understand how sponsorship works, they are not gaining a financial dime from sponsoring these festivals or this artist. It's a genuine desire to support, whether it's a PR stunt or whether it's a genuine concern for their own employees, we don't know. But the fact that we can continue to carry on with the support of these companies should be welcomed. I mean, we are growing as a society, and part of our evolution is to understand why things are happening and understand that within the good, there's a little bit of bad, and within the bad, there may be a little bit of good. So let's find that balance. Mm-hmm. So,
along those lines, evolution. You've seen in this industry a decade or so of changes. What do you see the next 10 years or so taking you? Do you think there's some big breakthroughs that are on the horizon for us?
I think the music industry in general has been going through a very interesting evolution since Napster was invented, and it changed the way we consume entertainment. We are on the cusp of another technological revolution with AI. We haven't even tapped the tip of the iceberg on what AI is going to mean for producers, creators, and musicians overall. But if what has happened until now is an indication of what the future is going to hold, is learn to understand the technology before you go against it, and learn to embrace it, and learn to use it and monetize it for the benefit of the artists and the creators, rather than having corporations shut it down because now they can no longer profit. I bet you anything that if the record labels had even a slight of vision into what an MP3 could do for their business in the future, we will be seeing a different business model. And it took years for people to understand how to monetize streaming with Spotify and Apple Music. So the way I see music is it's definitely going to evolve. It's definitely going to grow. The live music experience is not going anywhere. And that's really where the magic is going to remain in music. Mm-hmm. But for them to be able to generate a decent living, they have to be able to embrace technology and be able to learn how to use it and create different avenues to monetize it. That's where I see it going. But live entertainment is here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. So I've had this thought process for a while. So like when I was in school for performance and production, I was like, at this point, I'm spending a lot of money on school and I'm debating, do I get out of school, try to figure everything out on my own? What would you suggest for an upcoming artist? Do you think it is acceptable for them to finish school? Do you think if they have the talent and drive, like what's the best outlet you think for a queer artist to get to where they want to go?
As someone who has found a lot of positive in education, I don't want to say kids stay in school, but the positive training and the education and the knowledge that you gain from going to an institution that is there to prepare you and train you with a set of skills that is going to help you fulfill your passion is something that you definitely should embrace. Mm-hmm. Definitely, if you are talented and you feel that taking guitar lessons is not going to help you, then try it. But the beauty about art and artists is you go with your heart and you go with your feeling, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a double-edged sword because creators don't think like normal people. It's one day you want to paint a wall, the next day you want to fix a car for some reason, and then the next day you want to start playing a guitar. So
are you talking about my day-to-day life? What the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Was the end question like for up and coming artists, like how they can,
Yes, like would you like getting an agent? Like that's something that I've thought about a couple times when it comes to specific artwork that I wanted to do. But I'm like, is it something that would benefit me more, or could I pursue the same thing by myself? Like for an artist coming up, would you suggest?
As a good agent, I'm going to say you need an agent.
There you go.
No, I'm going to give you the same advice I give to all the up and coming artists that knock on our door. You need a manager if you have something to manage. You need an agent if you need to be represented because you cannot handle the volume of business that you have coming in. And when it comes down to can you do it on your own? Absolutely, you can. It's a very Miss America answer, but
no, it's okay.
We have seen Chance the Rapper had incredible success as an independent artist, and then we see artists that have had the structure of having a record label and the corporate machine behind them and still achieve success. So you have to be honest with your art. That's the first thing I'm gonna tell you. You have to be honest with your art. Once you understand what your art is and where it's going, then you will find your tribe. Once you find your tribe, then that's going to tell you where you need to go. You cannot be an artist just for the monetary aspect of it. You have to connect with people. And successful artists do what? They connect with people. Painters, like I just saw this painting here, and it's incredible. Like I connected with that painting. Create the art that comes from the heart, and you'll find your tribe, and then it will come to you. But if you're getting a lot of volume of work, get a manager, and then the manager will find you an agent, and then the whole
good
cycle
advice.
will come. I think so.
You answered it.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah, that was great. So I have some rapid fire questions for you. This is for our audience that enjoys Drag Race.
Okay, let's do it.
Which Drag Race queen makes you laugh the loudest?
Oh my God. Cynthia.
Which Drag Race queen can't keep a secret to save their life?
Oh, Jesus. Does it have to be somebody else? Cynthia?
Every answer, Cynthia.
It seems like we're going to have Cynthia on the show soon. Which Drag Race queen deserves more recognition than they received on their time on the show?
Cynthia Lee Fontaine.
Cynthia Lee Fontaine for sure.
Which Drag Race queen would you see taking over hosting duties from RuPaul?
Bianca Del Rio. Okay. Hands down. Yeah.
Which Drag Race queen has grown the most since their original time on the show?
Ooh. Can I pick one? Does it have to be one?
Give me what you got.
Adoring Trixie.
Okay.
Definitely Adoring Trixie.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay. Which two Drag Race queens do you think should be dating each other?
Wow, that's an interesting one. Just to be messy here, I'm gonna say Detox and Brooklyn Heights.
Oh, okay. I was not gonna guess that.
I like that.
Just to be messy, I love.
I mean,
them.
I was kind of living for the Vanjie Gottmik moment when it was happening on screen. I was like, I did not expect that, but I'm kind of here for it.
Yeah, no, put Brooklyn and Detox would be a good time.
That would.
Yes,
yeah. I know Brooklyn. We met up in Puerto Vallarta and
she's incredible.
a few years ago, and I'm gonna text her that after this. So.
Tell her, I have you in my pocket, and he said you should date Detox. She's gonna laugh. She's gonna fall on the floor. Was that the last question?
Yeah, I think we're about out of time. This was a really great conversation. I really appreciate you joining us for this.
I am so nervous. The moment went by so fast. I forgot what we were talking about. But I hope that the community finds value in this. I really hope that if any artists are listening to this, they find value in our conversation. And I really hope that the community in general, when they hear this, they understand that unity is the key. And
and everyone is an artist in their own way.
Yeah.
Remember that. Yeah. So if you have those passions, go for it.
And I have an open door policy in my agency. So whenever you tag me, if any artists have any questions that they can't find answers, hit me up. Like,
where can they find you?
My personal Instagram is @bitchamjavi, but they can find the agency at KOQ Agency all over. But yes, if you're an artist and you're underrepresented, you don't have representation, and you have questions, that's something that I passionately do. I counsel and I consult independent artists free of charge.
Oh, be careful.
Yeah, free of charge. And for the love of God, if you meet with an agent or a manager and they ask you to sign a contract and pay them up front, do not do it.
Yeah.
This is good information to have.
Please do not do it, because that's a scam.
Yeah.
An artist agent and an artist manager should always earn their commission.
Well, if you're queer and you're looking for an agent, he's right in front of us. Hit him up.
Yeah. Thank you, Javi.
Thank you,
Julio. And we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
It was great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.